What if you're not being delayed, but protected from receiving what you're not yet whole enough to hold? What if the reason your life feels stuck has nothing to do with effort, talent, or timing, but with what you're still unwilling to let go of? Why do you say you want peace, yet keep feeding the very thoughts that disturb it? Where does it hurt the most? In the silence that never speaks back, or in the noise that never lets you hear your soul? And how much longer will you keep pretending you don't already know the answer? This isn't about what you're waiting for. It's about what you're afraid to release. And until you surrender that weight, you'll keep calling delay what is actually mercy. You are not being punished, you are being paused. Until you stop clinging to the old story and start making room for something real. Stay here, don't click away, because the truth I'm about to reveal will not give you comfort. It will give you clarity, and if you have the courage to hear it, you won't leave the same. You've done everything they said would make you whole. You've filled your calendar. You've filled your feed. You've filled your house, your title, your plate. Yet still, you feel hollow. There's a strange ache that doesn't go away. It doesn't scream. It whispers. When the music stops, when the phone dies, when the lights are off, you feel it, like a quiet question that never leaves. Why do I feel empty, even though I have so much? Why do I still feel alone in the middle of a crowd? What is this unspoken hunger that nothing seems to feed? You try to ignore it, drown it in more goals, more likes, more noise. But silence is not your enemy, it is your invitation. There is a truth few dare to face. You are not empty. You are echoing, and no amount of external sound will ever answer the cry of an internal soul. I remember the days I felt most powerful. I was achieving, winning, respected. But underneath it all, I was drifting further from myself. People clapped, I smiled, but something inside me didn't move. Not once. I thought success would silence the ache. But the more I gained, the more hollow I became. And one night, surrounded by people, I felt lonelier than I'd ever been. Not because they didn't see me, but because I couldn't find myself in any of it. That night I turned off the noise, not just the sound, the pressure, the pretending. I sat still long enough to feel something I had run from for years. The truth I never wanted to face. The soul is not hungry for attention. It is hungry for alignment. You can spend your whole life feeding your ego and still starve your essence. You can be applauded for a version of you that isn't even real and still wonder why you feel like a stranger in your own life. You don't need more validation. You need stillness. You don't need more answers. You need less noise. The soul does not need fixing. It needs permission to speak, and it cannot speak above the sound of your own pretending. You're not empty, you're just exhausted from acting full, and that mask you wear, it's heavy. But silence strips you down to truth. It doesn't flatter your ego, it frees you from it. You see, the soul only begins to speak when the noise stops worshiping itself, when the world stops spinning long enough for you to feel what's real, and when you finally meet yourself, your real self, not the one built for applause. That's when everything changes, because the soul has never chased performance. It only craves presence. But presence is expensive. It costs you your distractions. It costs you your illusion. It costs you the comfort of staying numb. Stillness isn't easy, because when the world gets quiet, your wounds begin to speak. Your regrets echo. Your desires surface. But that's exactly where the healing starts. The soul is not a shallow thing. It is not amused by noise. It is not impressed by image. It lives in the deep, and the deep only reveals itself to the still. You've been taught that silence is boring, that solitude is weakness. But let me tell you something few will dare say in this noisy world. Stillness is strength. Silence is sacred, because only when you are still can you finally hear what's been calling you home all along. So unplug. Turn it off. Sit down with yourself. Yes, it will hurt. Yes, you will cry. But no, you will not die. You will be reborn. Reborn into someone real, someone whole, someone free. There comes a time in every soul's journey when it realizes noise is not nourishment, and the sound you've been seeking is not out there. It's the quiet yes from deep within. You're not waiting for peace to find you. Peace has been waiting for you to slow down long enough to hear it. So breathe. Let the noise pass. Let the lies fall. And listen. What you're searching for isn't loud. It doesn't fight for attention. It doesn't beg or perform. It waits. It waits beneath the chaos, beneath the pretending, beneath the need to always be on. It waits in stillness. And when you finally return to that stillness, you'll see it was never emptiness you feared. It was presence. It was truth. It was the weight of who you really are, stripped of titles, filters, and applause. So now I ask you, with all the noise gone, with all the layers peeled back, who are you really? And can you bear to meet yourself in that silence? Because that is where freedom begins. That is where fullness lives. That is where the soul comes alive again, not in the noise, not in the crowd, not in the chase, but in the stillness of finally coming home. There are moments in life when we become strangers to our own breath. We wake up tired, not because we didn't sleep, but because we spent all night carrying a weight we won't even admit is there. You smile, you move, you perform, but deep inside something aches, and not from pain, but from pressure. The kind of pressure that never lets you rest, not even when everything looks fine. Let me ask you something you've never said out loud. What if the pressure to be okay is the very thing keeping you from healing? What if you've gotten so used to striving you don't know what peace feels like anymore? We keep chasing progress, but never ask at what cost. You don't need another goal, you need a release, a sacred release, because the soul was never designed to carry everything. You cannot silence the soul with the noise of the world. What you chase externally cannot fill what's crying out internally. There was a season when you still believed quiet was weakness, when stillness made you restless, when being alone made you feel unwanted. So you stayed loud, you stayed busy, you stayed needed, and little by little you disappeared under all the noise. Not gone, just buried. That's the strange part about modern life. It convinces us that value is visible, that unless you are seen, followed, applauded, you do not exist. So we perform, we hustle, we collect titles and things and opinions, but lose the one thing that makes it all make sense, our inner clarity. That clarity, it only lives in silence. It only rises when the noise falls. Stillness is not emptiness, it is nourishment, but it speaks a language the ego cannot translate. And that is the challenge, isn't it? To return to quiet without fear, to stop filling your space with what you don't need, so you can hear the whisper of what your soul truly wants. You're not lost, you're just too loud. And the voice you're waiting for won't scream to be heard. It will only wait until you're ready to listen. Let that be your twist, the one truth that breaks every illusion. Your healing isn't in a destination, it's in your permission. Permission to stop running, permission to be unseen, permission to slow down and not apologize for it. Because when you finally let the world spin without you, you realize it never needed you to keep spinning in the first place. But you needed to be still to remember that you are not your movement. You are not your image. You are not your grind. You are something deep, and that something has been waiting for you in the silence you've been avoiding. The soul starves in crowds, but feeds in stillness. You are not empty, you are simply unheard beneath the clutter. We live in a time where everything is urgent. Reply now, post now, win now, prove now. And in that nowness, we've forgotten the eternal. Not eternity as some far-off concept, but the eternal that lives within you. The still, sacred knowing that doesn't fade when the spotlight does. When you chase the temporary, you build your identity on shifting sand. Likes fade, success fades, even relationships change. But the part of you that watches it all pass, that silent observer that is the eternal, and it is starving, because you fed your life with what was never meant to satisfy. The betrayal isn't loud, it doesn't announce itself, it seeps in. You look back and realize you've lived 5 years for people you don't even know. You've built a life that pleases the crowd but empties your core. And you wonder why peace feels like a myth. The soul doesn't want noise, it wants nearness. The soul doesn't want to be admired, it wants to be aligned. We weren't made to worship what we can hold, We were made to become what cannot be taken, but as long as you seek yourself in what changes, you'll keep losing yourself in what fades. So here's the moment, the shift, the breath you didn't know you needed until now. You don't need to prove anymore. You don't need to pretend you're full when you're running on spiritual fumes. You don't need to keep feeding the part of you that's never satisfied. There is a deeper hunger in you, one that can't be fed by anything you see, only by what you remember. And what you remember is this: you are not the noise, you are not the emptiness, you are not the story you've been repeating in your mind. You are the stillness beneath the waves. You are the watcher behind the pain. You are the truth that has survived every false version of your soul. Today, let this be the day you stop chasing. Let this be the hour you stop performing. Let this be the breath that says, I am ready to return. Return not to comfort, but to clarity, not to the past, but to presence, not to who the world told you to be, but to who you've always been, beneath the noise, beyond the fear, before the world began speaking for you. Are you still hungry for the world to see you, or are you ready to see yourself again? You don't need another affirmation. You need a release. Let go of the image. Let go of the pressure. Let go of the noise. The soul is waiting in silence, and when you return to it, you'll find what nothing else could give you: peace without a price. You've been carrying it for so long, you forgot you were carrying anything at all. The tension in your shoulders, the fatigue in your eyes, the moments where you want to speak, but something inside holds back. Not fear, but exhaustion. Not physical exhaustion, something deeper, the soul kind. And still you keep going, because the world doesn't slow down, because people need you, because you don't want to be the one who breaks. But here's a sacred question. What if you're not breaking? What if you're being invited to let go? You think you're holding it all together, but the truth is it's holding you down, and the weight you refuse to drop, it's what's killing you from the inside out. Emptiness is the evidence of misplaced devotion. Whatever owns your focus owns your fulfillment. At some point you gave your strength to something that didn't deserve it. Maybe it was an image. Maybe it was a voice from your past. Maybe it was the illusion that if you could just do more, you'd finally feel like enough. So you kept pouring, kept giving, kept shaping yourself into who you thought they wanted, while your own soul shrank to fit the mold. You became what the world applauded, but lost touch with the part of you that never needed applause, that quiet, sacred center, the place within that just is, with no performance, no pressure, no pretending. And here's the part most don't admit. We think we're strong for holding everything in, but real strength is surrender. To admit this is too heavy for me now. To confess I've been feeding the wrong fire. To finally say I choose to let go of what's been choosing to destroy me. You don't heal by holding on. You heal by releasing what was never yours to carry. You were not built to hold the weight of everyone's expectation. You were not designed to be everything to everyone. You were not called to lose yourself just to be accepted. So yes, let it go. The guilt, the control, the invisible checklist in your mind that says I'll be worthy when no, you are already worthy. And what's killing you is trying to earn what was always yours to begin with. Let that truth break you open, not to hurt, but to heal. You were never weak. You were just weighed down by what was never meant for you. You were not built for applause. You were built for alignment. And until you return to truth, no success will satisfy. There's a moment when you realize you climbed a ladder that was leaning against the wrong wall. You chased validation, but it never filled the ache. You reached the top and found it hollow. The lights you ran toward, they blinded you from what mattered most. And now in the quiet you hear something more powerful than praise. You hear the truth. The soul was never meant to be marketed. The truth was never meant to be popular. You were never meant to trade your stillness for strategy. So why do we keep performing? Because we believe alignment can be substituted with attention. But it can't. Attention is loud. Alignment is light. Attention burns fast. Alignment builds forever. You've known this. Deep down you've always known that the chase was making you tired, that the spotlight was hiding your shadows, that your true self, your quiet self, was slowly suffocating under the pressure to impress. The challenge now is not to become something new. It's to unbecome what never belonged. Strip off the image. Strip off the applause. Strip off the need to be impressive. And just be honest. Honest with the part of you that says, I'm tired of pretending. I want peace more than popularity. I want alignment more than achievement. And that's where everything begins to shift. Because when you let go of applause, you start hearing the quiet approval that never left. The peace that says, you are loved without a title. You are seen without a stage. You are enough without the echo of others' voices. There is no success that can satisfy the soul out of alignment. But even in your lowest moment, when your soul finds stillness, you are already full. And that fullness, that's where real life begins. So breathe again, not the shallow breath of survival, but the deep breath of surrender. The weight is not your identity. The applause is not your worth. And the pressure is not your truth. You can walk away from all of it. And in that holy silence you will remember, peace does not come when you do more. Peace comes when you return to who you were before the world told you what you had to be. So I ask you now, what are you still holding that's been holding you back? And more importantly, are you ready to set it down? You don't need permission. You don't need a sign. You just need to release. Let it go. Let it fall. Let it break. And in the silence that follows, let your soul speak again. It's been waiting, not for your performance, but for your presence. And now, you're finally here. Not gone. Just buried. That's the strange part about modern life. It convinces us that value is visible, that unless you are seen, followed, applauded, you do not exist. So we perform, we hustle, we collect titles and things and opinions, but lose the one thing that makes it all make sense, our inner clarity. That clarity, it only lives in silence. It only rises when the noise falls. Stillness is not emptiness, it is nourishment, but it speaks a language the ego cannot translate. And that is the challenge, isn't it? To return to quiet without fear, to stop filling your space with what you don't need, so you can hear the whisper of what your soul truly wants. You're not lost, you're just too loud, and the voice you're waiting for won't scream to be heard. It will only wait until you're ready to listen. Let that be your twist, the one truth that breaks every illusion. Your healing isn't in a destination, it's in your permission. Permission to stop running, permission to be unseen, permission to slow down and not apologize for it. Because when you finally let the world spin without you, you realize it never needed you to keep spinning in the first place. But you needed to be still, to remember that you are not your movement, you are not your image, you are not your grind, you are something deeper, and that something has been waiting for you. In the silence you've been avoiding, the soul starves in crowds but feeds in stillness. You are not empty, you are simply unheard beneath the clutter. We live in a time where everything is urgent. Reply now, post now, win now, prove now, and in that nowness we've forgotten the eternal, not eternity as some far-off concept, but the eternal that lives within you, the still sacred knowing, that doesn't fade when the spotlight does. When you chase the temporary, you build your identity on shifting sand. Likes fade, success fades, even relationships change, but the part of you that watches it all pass, that silent observer, that is the eternal, and it is starving, because you've fed your life with what was never meant to satisfy. The betrayal isn't loud, it doesn't announce itself, it seeps in. You look back and realize, you've lived 5 years for people you don't even know. You've built a life that pleases the crowd but empties your core, and you wonder why peace feels like a myth. The soul doesn't want noise, it wants nearness. The soul doesn't want to be admired, it wants to be aligned. We weren't made to worship what we can hold, we were made to become what cannot be taken. But as long as you seek yourself in what changes, you'll keep losing yourself in what fades. So here's the moment, the shift, the breath you didn't know you needed, until now. You don't need to prove anymore. You don't need to pretend you're full when you're running on spiritual fumes. You don't need to keep feeding the part of you that's never satisfied. There is a deeper hunger in you, one that can't be fed by anything you see, only by what you remember. And what you remember is this: you are not the noise, you are not the emptiness, you are not the story you've been repeating in your mind, you are the stillness beneath the waves, you are the watcher behind the pain, you are the truth that has survived every false version of yourself. So today, let this be the day you stop chasing, let this be the hour you stop performing, let this be the breath that says I am ready to return. Return not to comfort, but to clarity, not to the past, but to presence, not to who the world told you to be, but to who you've always been beneath the noise, beyond the fear before the world began speaking for you. Are you still hungry for the world to see you, or are you ready to see yourself again? You don't need another affirmation, you need a release. Let go of the image, let go of the pressure, let go of the noise. The soul is waiting in silence, and when you return to it, you'll find what nothing else could give you: peace without a price. You don't need more information. You need more honesty. You're not confused. You're avoiding the truth that would cost you your comfort. There comes a moment when the soul becomes allergic to noise. Not just the noise around you, but the constant noise within you. All the pretending, all the chasing, all the needing to be more, look better, win louder. It gets loud inside. So loud that even silence can't quiet it. And that's when something in you starts to ache. Not for answers, but for peace. Not for more, but for less. And so the question is no longer, what do I need to do next? It becomes, when will I finally stop running from myself? Because the truth is, the longer you run from stillness, the further you run from who you really are. There is a sacred law buried deep beneath the world's noise. The soul cannot thrive in performance, only in presence. You're not tired because of your work. You're tired because of your war, the internal war between who you are and who you're pretending to be. There's a version of you that only comes alive when you stop needing to be impressive. There's a power that only wakes up when you allow the silence to speak louder than your self-defense. But here's the challenge. The hardest part of spiritual maturity is this: to no longer be addicted to being seen, needed, or understood. You are not here to win the world. You are here to wake up from it. And that begins with a terrifying act of courage, to sit with yourself, to watch every mask burn, and to discover that beneath the ashes, you were enough all along. The twist: you were never missing clarity. You were just drowning in distraction. The impact: once you finally grow quiet enough to hear yourself again, you stop trying to be somebody and you start becoming whole. You stop trying to convince anyone and you start becoming true. No noise can teach you who you are. Only stillness can. And only when the noise dies does the soul remember its voice. You are not out of time. You are out of truth. You don't need to speed up. You need to let go of what is slowing you down. There's a spiritual weight you've carried for years, and it's not the world. It's the way you're clinging to things you were meant to surrender. You know it. You feel it. You've called it overthinking. You've called it uncertainty. But it's not. It's attachment. Attachment to how it should go, to who you think you should be, to the path you thought would bring peace. But the soul is not nourished by control. It's nourished by release. And until you release, you will remain restless. Because here's the truth. You were not created to carry everything, only to carry what is yours. You're dragging old opinions, expired identities, imaginary timelines, and wondering why you're exhausted. It's not the future that's heavy. It's the weight of your refusal to let go. The twist: letting go does not mean losing. It means finally making space for what's meant to grow. The impact: when you stop gripping outcomes, you start receiving clarity. When you stop trying to force timing, you start walking in peace. There is no wisdom in carrying what you were never meant to fix. No strength in forcing what's not aligned. No glory in suffering for control. This isn't weakness. This is the beginning of wisdom. And wisdom whispers this: the lighter your spirit, the clearer your path. So maybe you don't need to push harder. Maybe you need to trust deep. Maybe the most spiritual thing you can do right now is to drop the burden you've been calling your identity. You are not your pain. You are not your past. You are not your pace. You are the space beneath it all. And in that space, there is clarity, power, and truth. So pause, let go, and listen. The soul has been waiting to speak, but it only speaks when the grip releases. And the moment you release, you rise. You cannot possess what you secretly resent, bliss what you desire, or it will never come near. You will never hold in your hands what you curse in your heart. There's a quiet war happening inside many of us between what we say we want and what we secretly feel about the people who already have it. You say you want peace, but you resent the ones who live calmly. You say you want abundance, but you judge the ones who've prospered. You say you want love, but you envy those who are truly loved. So what is it you actually want? Because here's the truth most people never say out loud. You cannot attract what you attack. You cannot welcome what you resent. You cannot hold what you secretly hate. And this has nothing to do with morality or being good. It's energetic law. Resentment is repellent. Blessing is magnetic. What you bless, you draw near. What you curse, you drive away. And this is the backstory. Maybe someone once hurt you. They used money to control. They used love to manipulate. They used influence to dominate. And so you made a vow, not out loud, but in your spirit, I will never be like them. But that vow became a cage. You swore you wouldn't become like them. But now you can't become yourself either, because everything that reminds you of that pain you unconsciously push away. You didn't just reject them, you rejected the blessing itself. The challenge, your heart is split. You're chasing success with your mind, but rejecting it with your soul. You want abundance, but you think it's corrupt. You want visibility, but you think it's prideful. You want real love, but you think it makes you weak. And so every time something beautiful gets close to you, you sabotage it. Not because you're broken, but because you're still bitter. The twist? It's not about becoming like them. It's about becoming free. Free enough to bless what once triggered you. Free enough to admire without comparing. Free enough to say, I see someone thriving, and I send them peace. That's power. That's wholeness. That's the open hand it receives. And here's the impact. When you start blessing what you once cursed, doors open. When you choose to honor rather than judge, your energies shift. You rise above the vibration of jealousy. You step out of the echo of old pain. You stop being afraid of becoming like them, because you now realize you were never meant to copy anyone. You were meant to embody what's real. You can't hold your blessing with clenched fists. You can only receive it with a healed heart. And a healed heart doesn't need to compete. It celebrates, expands, and attracts. So the question is no longer, how do I get what I want? The real question is, can I bless what I say I desire, even when someone else has it first? Because if you can, what you desire won't run from you. It'll recognize you, and it will come. When you let go of the how, the when becomes now. Divine timing does not respond to pressure, only to peace. There is an anxious part of you that keeps asking, when will it happen? When will I be ready? When will it come together? But underneath that question is fear. Fear that time is running out. Fear that you're behind. Fear that nothing will ever change. So you overplan. You micromanage. You pray, then panic. You release, then grip again. And yet nothing moves, because real miracles don't obey control. They respond to surrender. And this is the part we don't want to hear. The more you obsess over how it will happen, the further you push it away, because control is not faith. Control is fear dressed in strategy. Letting go of the how does not mean apathy. It means alignment. It means you stop thinking the power is in your effort, and remember the power is in your presence. This is the backstory. At some point, something didn't go the way you expected. You trusted, you waited, you tried, and still, it didn't unfold. So now you grip harder. You tighten the schedule. You question every delay. And secretly you've begun to believe, if I don't make it happen, nothing will. That belief is the actual block, because the deeper law is this. Manifestation follows surrender. Timing responds to peace. The challenge, you have to choose between needing to know and being free. The twist, it's not your job to figure out the entire path. It's your job to stay faithful in the next step. The path reveals itself to the one who walks without fear. And when you truly let go of the how, you stop waiting for the miracle and become the space in which it unfolds. You stop asking when will it come and start living like it's already here. Peace is no longer a reward. It becomes the condition that allows it all to unfold. So release your grip. Stop fighting divine timing like it's your enemy. Start walking like the one who knows the seed is already in the soil. It's not your job to scream it into bloom. It's your job to become the sun. Still, certain, steady. The moment you stop demanding the how, you start experiencing the now. And in the now, it's already happening. You've been praying for the door to open, but refusing to drop what won't fit through it. You say you want truth, but only the kind that doesn't undo your illusion. You want freedom as long as it doesn't cost your comfort. But here's the eternal law. You cannot rise while clinging to what drags you. You cannot be reborn while protecting the ego that buried you. And you cannot hear the whisper of the soul until you silence the roar of resistance. This is not about motivation. This is about confrontation. The life you claim you're waiting for is waiting on you to get honest, to get empty, to get still. Peace does not enter crowded rooms. Clarity does not shout over chaos. And truth will never fight for your attention. It waits like a loyal flame, ready to consume every false identity you were never meant to carry. So here's the wake-up call. If you won't let go, you will be dragged. If you won't release the noise, you will mistake silence for abandonment. And if you keep chasing the how, you will keep running from the now. Not because life is cruel, but because truth is too sacred to be handed to a closed hand. So open it. Don't subscribe to this channel. Subscribe to the truth trying to break you open. And if this pierced you, don't scroll. Sit with it. Let it undo what was never